Hi, everyone. All right, so we are going to kick it off in a second, but before we do, I say we start a quick poll because both Lukas and myself are super, super curious to hear what challenges do you have when it comes to virtual facilitation. And we're going to explore how storytelling might help us with some of those challenges. So on your left side of the screen, you should see a poll popping with a text box where you can just type in your answer and let us know. All right, we have the first answers already coming in. Oh, body language, love that. Keeping people engaged, keeping participants engaged, that's a massive pain. Anxiety about tech and connectivity issues, yes, we've just talked about that like 5 minutes ago, Lukas, as well. Keep the public interest and attention, getting everyone to contribute, very important. Lack of engagement, there it comes again. Participants multitasking during the training, email. So be good participants today and close your email and put away your phone and don't get distracted. Connection issues, yes. Some things are within our control. Other things are outside of our control. So I would like to welcome everyone to this event. I'm not sure, I think that some of you are joining us in the morning, others are joining us in the evening. My name is Ana Maria, those of you that I haven't met before, and I am leading the community project here at Butter. Give me maybe a quick thumbs up reaction on your left side. Find the thumbs up and give me a reaction if you have attended a workshop in Butter before, and give me a thumbs up if you haven't, so we can see how many people are familiar with the tool. A lot, and some that are not. That's also perfectly fine. All right, so a community event is the best way to get accustomed with the tool. And for those of you that don't know Butter, it is the all-in-one tool to deliver collaborative, engaging, and smooth virtual workshops. And you're going to see a couple of our awesome features this evening. Now, I do have to mention that this session is being recorded, so it's going to be shared on YouTube and with the Butter community. If you feel uncomfortable with that, feel free to show us your avatars and keep your cameras closed while still being engaged. You can either queue to ask a question or pop all your questions in the chat as well. Yes, I am going to also pop a couple of relevance links for you in the chat on how you can connect with Lukas and how you can join the Butter community and maybe book a demo to find out about our tool. And with no further ado, I would like to introduce you to Lukas. And Lukas is a former Accenture management consultant, so coming from that world, right? And he's currently design thinker in MSD's experience design team. In his job, he is planning, facilitating a broad range of business workshops, and he's also delivering some soft skills trainings for his team and his colleagues. And since 2012, I believe Lukas has been active in the Toastmasters International. I think that almost all of us are familiar with Toastmasters, and he has won various speech contests, and he also had a range of leadership roles, and the biggest, most important one was a director for Eastern Europe. So there were a lot of speeches involved and a lot of nerves. I've attended one session and I was like, my hands were sweating. Lukas, thank you so much. It's a pleasure to have you with us today, and I can't wait to learn more about storytelling from you. So over to you. The floor is yours.
Hi, Ana Maria. Thank you for a wonderful introduction. Hi, everyone. So happy to be here with you tonight. I'm just thinking maybe I should have count all the things, because now, the expectations are so high that, this session has to be ultra awesome in the next 60 minutes. Well, I will try my best. So the very first thing, what we are going to do, and thanks Anna Maria so much for helping me out with all the preparation. I think Butter is a really wonderful tool, and you can reach all these things in a very simple way. You can combine all these different tools that you would otherwise need to gather manually together. If maybe we can open up the Miro, we can do this initial quick, let's say, I wouldn't call that one a survey. And by the way, thanks all for providing your reactions already for the poll. The first thing that I want to illustrate is maybe you've attended some storytelling trainings before, maybe you have not. I wanted to tell you, first of all, storytelling is not rocket science. It's actually quite natural to all of us. It's a very natural form of communication. And it's also quite natural way for us to absorb information, to consume information. And just to show how easy that is, I prepared like really small exercise, to warm ourselves up. Maybe if any of you have learned any foreign language from a language textbook, maybe you are doing these, you have these like two characters on a picture and they had these speech bubbles and you had a chance to fill them out. And I would like to, first of all, before we dive anywhere deeper, I would like to ask you to try to do the same thing. So you have two examples, you have two post-its. Now I invite you to grab a post-it. You can even move it closer on like top of the characters' heads and like next to the characters' heads, and try to think, what is it that they could be telling to each other right now? Okay, Anna Maria, if you can set a timer for 2 minutes, and let's see what we get out of it. I'm always curious to see what we get out of it. So, well done. I think, what we can see on the screen is just that, storytelling comes to us really naturally. You didn't need to go through any special training, all just based on an image of two people. Already our brain is able, to create some kind of connections and can start putting stories into motion. Now, I'm not saying that what we've got on the screen is Shakespeare, but we already got some things that could get a story started. So thanks. Now, what is today going to look like in the remaining 50 minutes? In the first part, I'm going to show you a little bit what are the possible advantages of storytelling, especially for you as online virtual facilitators. Number two, it's important, once you know that storytelling is important, that you get some tips. How do you find stories? So that you know what is it that you should be speaking about. And number three, we're going to have a look at the guaranteed story recipe, at something that will make it easy for you to put stories together without worrying too much about where to begin and where to end. Now get ready that this is going to be interactive. So you're going to go into breakouts once, maybe even twice. And the good news is that you will leave this workshop with a story that you'll have ready to tell, possibly in one of your future presentations, on top of the recipe of putting together any additional stories of your own. So with that, I believe we are ready to switch to me going presentation mode. How about that, Anna Maria? Would that be okay? I just go and share.
Wonderful.
Excellent. Why? And you might be asking, why is storytelling particularly important for online facilitators? And the reason for that is what you have shared as we were opening the session. Now, I'm not saying that storytelling is cure for everything. You can hardly completely, relax possible technical difficulties with storytelling. Even though, if you have seen that famous Steve Jobs bit when the presentation stopped working and suddenly he switches into telling a story about himself and Steve Wozniak in the college, it can also help. However, it doesn't completely solve the issue. But the kind of challenges many of you spoke how are put in the answers, how difficult it is to keep people's engagement, how to make people interested, to prevent them from grabbing their phone and doing something with it. This is something that storytelling can really help you with, because it is a tool that will help you keep your audience engaged. And the funny thing about it is that they will basically not even able to help themselves, because it's a natural tendency for us to keep focus when we hear a story. So overall, the three challenges that in online facilitation or online presenting in general that we'll be addressing is that it's hard to focus when you're online. There is no human connection. And sometimes you can even say that it's a bit boring to listen to online presentations. Speaking of the human connection, if all of us were together in the same room, the whole connection would be completely different between you and maybe some of you already know Anna Maria. I imagine most of you, maybe all of you, see me for the first time. So now your connection to me is basically zero. Now, if we were in the same room, maybe we would shake hands, or maybe we would drink coffee together, maybe we would do some small talk. Nothing like that is happening in the online presentations, or at least it's much harder to make it happen. So for example, creating a human connection is challenging. Now, how can a storytelling help you do that? With storytelling, you are able to paint a picture in the minds of the audience, and by sharing some tiny bits about yourself will help you become a real human being in the eyes of your virtual audiences, instead of just a picture or just a video on their screen. To give an example, and I actually just tested it on Anna Maria this morning when we were preparing for this event. This is just I just put there the link to one of my blog posts where I'm sharing something that happened to me 7 years ago. And it was, I think, one of the most awkward moments in my working life. And I was on one winter morning. I was coming to the office. I had my winter coat on and really wanted to, I had my headphones on, these big headphones, so I couldn't hear a thing was happening outside. I had loud, some motivational music. It was Battle Without Honor from the Kill Bill soundtrack, if anybody knows that one. And I'm walking like a king. I enter the door of my office, and then at that moment, I feel in our office there is a cafeteria. And in that moment, I feel like, they have these delicious chocolate-filled donuts in the cafeteria. I'm just going to get one for breakfast. In the rhythm of the music, I was making big steps. I turned 90 degrees towards the cafeteria. I made 3 steps, and then bang, I banged my face onto that glass wall. And it was a bit uncomfortable. In fact, what you can see on the photo, I really hit myself hard. I started bleeding, and I fell on the ground. I lost consciousness for a couple of seconds, so nothing serious. So it was a really strange moment. Now, the takeaway for me was, first of all, be careful and look where you're walking. Now, the advantage of what happened to me was that I got 3 chocolate-filled donuts for free, because the owners of the cafeteria were super scared that I'm going to be angry at them, that it was their fault that I hit the glass wall. Now, if I imagine that if you're at least a little bit human, or there's a chance that as I was telling you that, you imagined what it would be like to walk into a glass wall, or maybe you even empathize with me a little bit. And I made a little step towards becoming more of a human being in your eyes, rather than just a picture on a video, just by sharing that little bit of a story. It was not a real story, but let's say a little bit of a story. To cover a little bit more, and we're not going to go crazy theoretical, okay? But how this works, how storytelling works to spark people's imagination, how to keep them engaged. If you're interested, there's a whole pile of books on the topic, but I'm fully aware that not everyone reads books. So what I got for you is a recommendation for a TEDx talk. And it's a TEDx talk by this guy. His name is David J.P. Phillips, and the title is The Magical Science of Storytelling. And in the talk, he shares about the 3 story hormones. He calls them the angel's cocktail, There are three hormones that are produced in your body the moment you are listening to a story. And it's the following three. Number one is dopamine. Now, dopamine is the hormone that you get if you go to the gym, for example, you pump yourself up, you take a selfie, you post it on Instagram, and then you get the first like, and you see you got the first like, you get a small shot of dopamine. Feels good, doesn't it? The problem is that after that, you want more of it. So, 5 minutes later, check your Instagram again, and boom, another shot, another like. And that's, if it goes too far, maybe, some people build dopamine addiction. That's the addiction on social media. But what dopamine does, it makes you focus. It's the hormone of anticipation. This, in an online presentation, helps you solve the problem of people being distracted. If you're giving them enough engagement with the story, they will be paying attention. They will manage to keep focus. Number two, that's oxytocin. That's a hormone of a human connection. It will make people empathize with you and connect to you as a human being. It's much more easy to convey information when they perceive you as a human. And as you saw in myself smashing my head into glass, it again can be quite illustrative. And the last one, endorphins. Well, it can never hurt making your audience happy, right? So if you tell them a story that's going to be entertaining for them, or maybe deliver even some payoff, then they will probably want to listen to a story from you, to a presentation from you again. Okay, before we dive here, I'll pause here for a second. I want to check if there is any question so far, any question to the story hormones. Any questions or comments?
No questions. We're good to go.
Excellent. Well, and the thing is, this is one of my favorite topics, so I could speak about it for 3 hours, but I think that that's the situation where you might get a bit bored. So I thought that I could maybe do a little example of how really, storytelling can work on an audience. Now, in order for me to properly demonstrate it, I need to emotionally manipulate you. So are you, and I need your consent basically for me to be able to do this. So are you okay with me emotionally manipulating you, just for educational purposes, of course? And I promise I will not abuse it. Are you okay with that?
Everyone is looking forward to be emotionally manipulated right now. So go for it.
Okay, well, no worries. It's not going to be that awful. I just wanted to tell you something that happened to me in August 2018, so a little bit more than 3 years ago. And at that time, as Anna Maria mentioned in the introduction, I was very active in Toastmasters International. And at that time, I was responsible for education in Eastern Europe. So very often I would travel to different cities. What you can see on the picture is Kiev. And I was delivering their different presentations and workshops and helping other people learn how to become better speakers and leaders. And I was traveling to Kiev quite often. It was easy to get there, direct flight from Prague. The only problem was that the flights were late at night. They taking off from Prague at 10:40. They took 2 hours, plus 1 hour time difference. So I would arrive usually really, really late at night, maybe let's say 2 a.m. And at the time, the only thing I wanted was to get to bed, get to a hotel, get to bed as quickly as possible and fall asleep. Now, on that August evening, the flight was already delayed by 30 minutes. So when I was getting on the plane, I knew already I would be 30 minutes late. Oh well. As I was sitting on the plane took off. During the flight itself, nothing really took place. Unfortunately, I was flying with Czech Airlines. Now, I don't know if you're aware how this landscape of airlines in Europe works, but you have airlines such as Ryanair, very low prices, very low quality of service, or you have Lufthansa, very high prices, very high quality of service. Well, Czech Airline was very high prices, very low quality of service. So I didn't even get a cookie, which myself, I find that appalling. But okay, the plane landed in Kiev. And then the plane stopped, and I don't know if this happens to you as well, but whenever I'm on a plane, the plane stops, everybody jumps up from their seat in that very moment. which I don't understand because it will take at least 5 minutes until the door opens. But anyway, I kept sitting in my seat thinking, Lukas, you're no rush. You can be the last one to leave the plane. And indeed, 5 minutes later, the door opened, and everybody walks out of the plane. I am the last. And it's already like 2:30 at night. But then I realized I made a big mistake because Ukraine is not in Schengen, and that means there's going to be border controls. And these 500 people from the plane, all of them are ahead of me. So I am at the very end of the enormously long queue. Oh well, another 30 minutes. I wait until I get to the passport control. Now, finally, I get to an Uber and we drive to the hotel Ibis Kiev city center, the one that you can see on the picture. I get in, it's middle of the night, and there is this sign, we are expecting you. So finally something nice. I get to the reception and the lady says, of course, Mr. Liebich. She gives me my key card, room 617. So I get to the elevator. I ride up the elevator to the 6th floor. With my suitcase, I walk towards the door of room number 617. I tap the key card, the door beeps. So I push the handle, I slowly start opening the door, and then I see that in the room there's something is a little bit strange. On the ground, it looks like they didn't clean the floor. There was some mess. That's strange. I push the door a little bit more, and I can see the edge of the bed, and it looks like they didn't even make the bed. Now that is really strange. Well, what can I do? So I push the door a little bit more further, and then I hear, hey! And what happened there was, okay. And if I don't tell you now what happened there was, isn't that a bit uncomfortable? I would really like you to fully appreciate the way you are feeling right now. Because right now, your body, you are flying high on dopamine. Right now, your focus is dialed up to the maximum. And when I tell you what happened in room 617, you're going to remember it for the rest of your lives. But I'm going to tell you later, okay? Maybe. So now, I hope now we have this general idea of that stories might actually be a good thing to share in a presentation. And to make this session as practical for you as possible, I've got for you some tips how you can find stories of your own, because we're here because of your stories, right? So there are 3 elementary tools, and I'll have a couple of more, then I will share them with Anna Maria, so she'll be able to post them to the community. But for today, let's start with the 3 basic ones. The tool number 1 is minus 365 photos. You do not need to have that many photos. It's basically opening the photo application on your phone and rolling backwards 365 days. You look at a photo from 1 year ago. It doesn't need to be exactly, okay? You look at a photo 1 year ago and you see what is on the photo. And you can ask yourself, oh, what happened there? What is the story behind? So it's tip number 1, very easy. And of course, you can try it with some other photos, but it's always good to have, to point to 1. So minus 365 photos. The next is the phone book. It's fascinating, believe it or not, but most likely, if you open your phone contacts application and you randomly scroll and point at any of them and you ask yourself this question, how did this contact get into my phone? There is a story behind it. It might also be that, when your partner or somebody's partner gets jealous for whatever reason, and they ask you, how did that contact get into that phone? Now, hopefully you will never be in that situation, but I imagine even then you will need to come up with the story how that contact got in. And the last one, and that's the one that we're going to actually practice today, is tell me about a time when. Because that's a tool that allows you to choose a question, and it helps you find maybe a story that's relevant for the presentation that you are preparing, or for the training, or for the online session that you are preparing. Tell me about a time when. We got 3 prompt ideas. Now, Now really, I know you're paying attention from the beginning, but now really increase the level you're paying attention, because you will need this for the breakout, which is going to happen in a couple of minutes. Okay? So your task in the breakout, you will have 3 minutes each to tell a story, or basically to tell something to your colleagues. There's going to be 3 people in each breakout group, 2 or 3. And your task is going to be to tell your colleague 3 minutes, something like a story that when you either had to make a tough choice, or you turned a challenging situation into your advantage, or you exceeded your clients or bosses or colleagues' expectations. Okay? So breakout task is tell me about a time when. I'll give you a moment to think about it. And after that, we're going to start the breakouts. We come down, so breakout 1, tell your story, 3 minutes each. And here again for you, these are the 3 prompts. When you had to make a tough choice, you turned challenging situation into your advantage, or you exceeded your clients or bosses or colleagues' expectations. I'll pause here to see if there are any questions about what your task is going to be in a breakout. It's important to ask now if you have any. Do I get it right? There are no questions? Anna Maria, are we ready to launch the breakouts?
Yes, we are ready. We are going to have plenty of rooms with 2 people and 1 room with 3.
Okay, in that case, maybe we can do the breakouts all together for 8 minutes. So for those of you who will be in 2, you know that you will have 4 minutes each. For those of you when you are 3, you can try to go with 2 minutes each. Okay?
Perfect.
So we'll be back in 8 minutes, which is 39.
Awesome. See you back in 8 minutes and have fun.
Pina coladas in Hawaii with his girlfriend. And your hero takes a flight ticket, goes to Hawaii, and starts drinking pina coladas with his girlfriend. Again, that is sort of a boring story. Now, it's especially important because obstacle is the one thing that people forget the most often when they're putting stories together. And if you've ever heard the term success story, companies often put success stories together. The success stories I read, they very often do not have any obstacle in them. It's a company is sharing, oh, we'd helped this client, we were amazing, and the client was super happy. That's not really a story. It's boring to death. So never forget to have an obstacle in the story you are sharing. Then you have an action. That's going to be easy. Trust me, you just describe what happened. And you end up with the result. And the result, you can have a takeaway from the story if you want to pack some learning into the story. And you can put there the why. Now, why is it important for your audience to hear that story right now? Why is it relevant to them? Now, to have a look at some examples, and again, Anna Maria, you can drive us down to that story breakdown. You can think of, for example, some of you may have seen the movie Matrix. And in the Matrix, the subject was Neo, right? Keanu Reeves in black sunglasses. He is the protagonist. What he wants is he wants to get rid of humanity of the of the machines who are controlling them. The obstacle is clearly it was the machines who created the Matrix, so they are at home there, right? The humans, they are like just trying to find their way around it. Then the action, there are 3 big action movies with Neo as the superhero. The right lesson and why we need to hear the story. Okay, with the Matrix, that was a story for entertainment. So I'm not really sure if there is a right lesson. But if you be sharing your story, you can think of what is the takeaway? What can the audience learn? So right now, when we are in the mirror, you can zoom out and you can move around. And what I would invite you to do is grab one of the lines of Post-its. They're each with a different color, so it's easy for you to follow. Grab one of the line and try to fill it out for your own story. So if you like, you can add a story title, but really try to come up about who is the subject, what they want, it's the treasure, What is in the way? What is the obstacle? You can try to describe action just with one sentence, and then, what is the takeaway? What is the right lesson? And why should you hear it now? And this is going to help you prepare for the next breakout when you're going to tell the same story to a different person, but with an improved structure, okay? So get into the mirror, try to fill out all the columns, and we'll give you 2 minutes for that. Think about it, how to structure your story, and after that we'll go into the breakout. I'll pause here to see if there are any questions, because I know this was a lot and this is a bit more complex than the task before. So any questions? No questions? In that case, Ana Maria, could you please time 2 minutes for us? And maybe we can, if anybody needs more time, we can extend, but let's start with 2 minutes, okay? And everyone, you can try to fill out the post-its, breaking down the elements of your own story. All right. I can see the columns are nicely filling in. If you do not have it completed, that's completely fine. Hopefully, it already helped you think about the structure of your story. Now, we're going to do another round of breakouts. This time, we'll have just 7 minutes from the beginning to the end. And so keep that in mind. And your task is going to be to tell the same story, but try to use the structure that you have just prepared for yourself, okay? So you can first introduce who is the subject, what does the subject want, what is the obstacle, describe the action, and share what is the takeaway from the story and why the person you're telling it to should hear it right now. Questions before we start?
How many minutes, Lukas? Sorry.
Say 7 minutes, so that we finish 4 minutes before the end of the session.
Okay, perfect.
Thank you.
All right. I am beaming you in the breakout rooms now. Have fun.
Have fun. Hello, welcome back to the main room. So
I realized we almost didn't use the reactions, and I cannot be. No applause? What is this?
Of course. And so was it more time? Was it less time than before? How was it?
I'll never forget the time when the time wasn't enough.
Right. Well, congratulations. Hopefully all of you had, shared something interesting, shared a story, learned something. What I'd like to ask is if Ana Maria can bring us to the wrap up and questions frame, if you like. We have just a couple of minutes remaining, right? So 1 minute for you to, if there's any questions that you would like to ask following up on your experience, please type them, please add a post-it, type them in. And Ana Maria is going to be sending out an email with the follow-up information. I will answer all these questions in writing, and so that you get answers to every single question that you're going to ask. And then I'll just have like 1 minute finish prepared. And after that, I will take a couple of more minutes for those people who will want to stay a little bit longer. But I just want to make sure I'm being considerate to everyone's time. So we're going to wrap up in about 2 minutes. So Ana Maria, if you can bring us just to the questions, like to the one frame above, and we can give it 1 minute. You can put there any questions or any comments, anything basically that comes to your mind. You have 1 minute to write anything really. You can maybe share your favorite cookie.
Yeah, if you don't have questions, you feel free to also share if there was any difference in between the first story you shared and the second story you shared, if the vibe was different, if anything changed, a key takeaway, something that they're taking away and are committing to experiment with starting tomorrow. It doesn't have to be questions, so play around. We can't hear you, but we will soon.
I was, you know what? I was just testing your lip reading skills. Great music. I think I could listen to that. It was the perfect music end, I think. Thanks for all the comments. As we promised, you're going to get all the answers in writing. Now, if you can go to the very last slide where the picture of the Kiev hotel again is repeated, because I know that very often at the end of the workshop, people ask this question, okay, so what happened in the room 617? So if you come back with me in the story, I'm opening the door slowly on the 6th floor of a hotel, and I'm opening the door to the room, and there's mess on the floor, and the bed is not made, and then somebody shouts, hey, what was happening there was that there was a fat bald guy sitting on my bed. And I was thinking, well, I wasn't thinking anything. I was just so shocked in the middle of the night. And I also realized it was nothing to, it was no good time to think about things, because there was this guy screaming at me. So I said, sorry. I closed the door, and with my suitcase, I went back to the elevator. Now you can imagine how fast my heart was beating. It was really like from a nightmare. But as I was waiting for the elevator, I calmed down a little bit. I entered the elevator, I drove down, I calmed down a little bit more. And I remembered the sign on the hotel that said, we are expecting you. It says, okay, maybe it was a good thing. Maybe it was a service. So I get to the reception, and the receptionist, hello, my name is Lukas Liebich, room 617. And there's a fat bald guy on my bed in my room. Do you have a room without anyone in it? And the receptionist looked a little bit surprised first. Then she turned red and she apologized. And in 30 minutes, they got me another room that was empty where I could finally fall asleep. And that's why I'm telling you this story. Just before I fell asleep, I took out my phone and I typed it all. I sent it as a message to a friend of mine. And thanks to the fact that I write the story in the moment when it happened, I remembered it the next day. And then I remember it next month. And that's why I can tell you the story now. So the last thing is, I believe every day there is something super interesting happening to us. And all we need to do to keep it as a story is to write it down. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining this storytelling workshop. I wish you good luck with your online facilitation. And I wish you a lot of success with sharing your stories. Have a wonderful evening, and I hope to see you again. And thanks, Anna Maria. It was wonderful how you managed everything. It was so smooth.